Hey everybody, welcome on our channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto was the Maelstrom of Arasaka and got Harem. Huge shout out to Kappa 12 for this story. If you are new on the channel, don't forget to subscribe our channel and like the video too. So without wasting any more time, let's start the story. There are many words used to describe Saburo Arasaka, the head of the Arasaka family in the Arasaka Corporation: cunning, ruthless, smart, power-hungry, but most of all prideful. And if there was one thing Saburo despised above all else, it was his pride being tarnished. As a veteran of WW2 and a staunch nationalist, Saburo despised foreigners, especially Americans, so it would be safe to say that he would feel quite angry and slighted if he found any of his family mixing with foreigners, especially Americans, which is exactly what has happened with his most favored daughter Kushina. Kushina was born from Saburo's fourth wife Naruto Uzumaki, the daughter of a minor branch family of the Japanese royal family that Saburo had married to gain even more influence within the royal family and establish further links within the Japanese government. He had not expected a child from his fourth marriage due to his own advanced age, but it seemed that fate had granted him another daughter. One that he had hoped to use in order to further build his vast corporate empire and establish total domination over the world, but it seemed that she had turned out just as rebellious as his youngest son Yorinobu. At the age of 129, Saburo was showing clear signs of his advanced age, having lost the use of his left arm during his time as a WW2 pilot. Having also lost his left eyes and having several metal splinters embedded in his skull from his time in the war, Saburo had cyberware installed in his body to fix the damage and often having to use Arasaka's sarcophagus technology to heal and lengthen his life. Saburo preferred Japanese clothing, wearing a traditional Japanese kimono. Saburo stared down at his daughter before speaking. "After all I have done for you, this is how you chose to repay me," Saburo stated in his normal deep monotone but no less commanding voice, staring down at his daughter who stood in front of the desk of his office. Kushina stared defiantly back at her father, refusing to back down from her position. "And what is that I have done that's such a crime in your eyes, father? Fallen in love?" Kushina stated defiantly back at her father, the man that had brought most of the corporate world to its knees and made the Arasaka Corporation into the most powerful entity on the planet. Most would falter in front of him, but not Kushina. She knew that if she showed any weakness in front of father, he would use it against, and she would have nothing left to fight back against him. Love? Love is nothing but a fool's concept, and you should know better than to fall in love with a foreigner, Saburo stated coldly. "Minato is not a foreigner like you claim. He was born here in Tokyo and I love him regardless," Kushina said. "He is a half-blood and the son of one of Militech's mercenaries who attacked our Night City headquarters that led to your brother K's death," Morgan Blackhand said. "Saburo, do you really think he loves you? This was most likely his mission to sow dissent in our family through you. Minato is not like that, father. He loves me, and we have already gotten married. If you want to keep your daughter, then you can give us your blessing, otherwise, we are leaving," said Kushina, knowing her father would be too prideful and would not allow them to live comfortable unless they left the Arasaka family altogether. "You dare ask me that after insulting me by marrying that half-blood commoner," Saburo said in his normal deep monotone voice, but Kushina could tell he was angry. "The nail that protrudes from the wall gets hammered," Saburo said coldly. "I will allow you to leave with your life, but from now on you are no longer my daughter." "Father. Fine, I will leave with Minato, but I will always be your daughter," Kushina said defiantly before turning and leaving her father's office. As she walked out of her father's office, she saw her older half-sister Hanako. Prior to her relationship with Minato, her and Hanako had often competed on who would be Saburo's favorite and be the one to lead the Arasaka Corporation. Kushina stopped in front of Hanako, who looked at her before speaking. "You should have not done what you did, little sister, throwing away the Arasaka name all for some commoner," Hanako said with a hint of scorn and hurt. From what Kushina could tell, it was clear Hanako, much like her father, didn't approve of her decision. "You wouldn't understand, Hanako, having spent most of your time cooped up in that compound," Kushina said, shaking her head before walking past her sister. Kushina made her way to AV parking area within the HQ, having decided to leave the building. As she made her way to her personal AV, she saw her father's personal bodyguard Yuro Takemura standing by the AV. Clearly he had been given some type of orders by Saburo. Kushina walked up to him before speaking. "What are you doing here, Goro-kun? Shouldn't you be guarding my father?" asked Kushina. Arasaka-sama asked me to escort you to the compound and have you safely transported to the airport from where you can leave Tokyo, Takemura replied. Kushina sighed. It was clear her father didn't trust her if he placed his own personal bodyguard to watch her. Kushina moved into the AV before sitting down and waited for it to take off. Takemura followed and sat across from her. As the AV flew out of Arasaka HQ and into the Tokyo skyline, Takemura turned to Kushina and inquired something that had been on his mind ever since he had heard of Kushina disobeying her father and marrying Minato. Why is it that you have disobeyed your father's command and married Minato, Kushina-sama? Takemura asked. You are not the only person to ask me that today, Goro-kun. I love Minato. Besides, I would think you of all people would at least understand why I chose him. He is your friend after all, is he not? Kushina replied. Minato is my friend. We have worked together on many missions prior to his assignment of being your bodyguard, but it is extremely unprofessional of him to have a relationship with the person he is protecting, said Takemura. Still, he is a good man, but why would you throw away the Arasaka name by doing this? We all do crazy things for the ones we love and want to protect, Kushina said, looking down and rubbing her belly with a look on her face that Takemura had only seen before on a mother's face. I wanted to escape from all the backstabbing and underhandedness that comes with this life, and I suggest you do the same as well, Takemura-kun. They eventually made it back to the Arasaka compound. Kushina got out of her AV and started to make her way to her room within the compound and started to pack the stuff she felt was most important. She had known her father would refuse to give her his blessing and would exile her, but she had prepared for the eventuality, having sold her shares within the Arasaka corporations and moved most of her stuff across to Night City, from where she hoped that she would be able to live peacefully and keep her child safe and protected from her family and their toxic influence, and what better place than underneath her father's nose. Ring. Kushina heard her agent communication device going off and answered the call. Michiko, so were you able to do what I requested? Kushina asked, answering her niece's phone call. Michiko was her older half-brother's daughter. Yes, Auntie, I was able to get all of your assets transferred across to NC and the sale of your shares has gone through. Are you sure you want to go through with this? Michiko said over the phone. I do. I don't want my baby growing up in this environment. You should. After all, Kay had you shielded from father for the exact same reason, Kushina replied. Kushina collected her things before leaving her room. Thank you for everything, Michiko, Kushina said. It's no problem, Auntie, and please bring my cousin over whenever you can, Michiko replied, her voice filled with excitement at wanting to meet her soon-to-be-born cousin. I will try when I can, Kushina replied, giggling at her niece's excitement to meet her cousin. She then made her way back to her personal AV, eager to escape this life and start a new one. 10 years later. Free State of North California. Night City, Westbrook District, Charter Hill. The sun rose over the metropolis of Night City, referred to by many corporate and media outlets as the City of Dreams, but those living within the city knew that this city was far from a city of dreams. In Charter Hill, the sub-district of the much larger Westbrook District, we find Kushina Arasaka, or as she has now taken up her husband's last name of Namikaze. After being exiled from the Arasaka family, Kushina moved to Night City with Minato and her soon-to-be-born child. Using her vast shares and assets within her father's company and combined with her husband's mercenary work, they were able to create a comfortable life for themselves within the rich district of Westbrook. They, much like the rich elite of Night City, were able to live within the upper-class area of Charter Hill, though a new area had been built by the Corps in the North Oak sub-district that was being advertised as the new home for the rich. Kushina and her family were happy where they were, and she didn't want to risk moving closer as her former family had built a new mansion there. Has Naruto gotten up yet? Kushina heard her husband state. Minato was the son of the legendary Solo Morgan Blackhand, the very same mercenary who had helped Rockerboy Johnny Silverhand and a small force of Militech soldiers to infiltrate Arasaka's Night City headquarters. The attack had ended with a nuke being set off within Arasaka HQ that led to the death of many, including Kushina's eldest half-brother Kei Arasaka. There hadn't been any body left that could have been identified as Blackhand's body, with many believing he had perished along with Johnny Silverhand. Minato didn't know his father well, but the many had always made sure that he and his mother were taken care of, often sending them money he had earned from his job as a solo merc. He hasn't. I swear that boy stays up too late and gets up too late, Kushina said, sighing at her son's sleeping patterns. He has been telling me he has been working on something special. He even had me use some considerable money to buy various normally unobtainable parts, Kushina said. Well, whatever it is, I know it will be something special, Minato said amusingly. You don't help things, I swear you spoil him too much, and now he expects me to do the same, Kushina said half joking and half angrily at her husband. Minato laughed nervously before returning to his breakfast. Kushina sighed before heading towards her son's room. Naruto, it's time to wake up, Kushina said, knocking on the door to her son's room, receiving no response. Kushina opened the door and entered inside. Naruto's room was large with a double bed in the middle. Around the room were several pieces of cyberware and technology along with a large collection of net-running and computer equipment. On a desk next to her son's, she could see a computer that was still running. She walked over to the desk and examined what was on the screen. What has he been looking at all night, Kushina thought. She examined the screen on the computer and found a wall of code that seemed to have been written. Being a netrunner herself, Kushina was able to interpret the code that had been written on the screen. This seems to be code for a basic AI, so that's what he has been working, Kushina thought, feeling proud that her son is able to do something that even people much older than him struggle with. Naruto, it's time to get up, Kushina said softly, sitting down next to where son was sleeping on his bed. Kushina ran her hand through his golden hair. Clutched in Naruto's hands was what seemed to be a round metallic object about the size of a coffee holder. It looked to be hologram projector of some kind. Kushina wondered what could be on the hologram, but before she could wonder any further, Naruto started to wake up. Mom, what time is it? Naruto asked groggily. He slowly got up and looked around his room before noticing his computer had been left on. It's morning, sweetie, you need to get up, Kushina said. I've seen what you've been working on. Is that why you have been staying up so late? Kushina asked sternly. That was supposed to be a surprise, Mom, Naruto replied and pouted at his mother for having peeked at what he had been working on. Sorry, I couldn't help myself, but you shouldn't be staying up so late, Naruto, Kushina replied. Well, I was able to finish the basic program and got it working due to staying up, Naruto replied smugly. Still, Naruto, you need your sleep, you're still growing after all. Anyway, come down and we can show your father as well, Kushina said before starting to make her back to the dining room. Naruto got ready and went downstairs where he saw his mother and father talking. Minato noticed his son walking over and sitting next to him and asked about what Kushina had told him. So what is that you were working on, Naruto? Minato inquired, both proud and intrigued that his son was able to develop an AI, albeit a basic one even at his age was impressive. It's a basic AI software right now. It can only talk and play games with me, Naruto said before placing the device he had been holding while he was sleeping. Naruto sat down before activating the device with a voice command. Kurama, activate, Naruto said. The device lit up before an image appeared from a hologram showing a small orange nine-tailed fox. How can I help you, Naruto? The fox AI stated, looking up at its creator. Minato and Kushina looked astonished that their son's AI was fully functioning and was able to communicate. Naruto beamed with happiness that his project that he had been working on is successful and that his portable device he had built for Kurama was working. Kushina turned to the AI and asked. So Kurama, what are your capabilities? Kushina asked. The AI did not seem to respond, and the hologram merely seemed to flicker every few seconds. He can only respond to me for now, Mom. He's not that advanced yet, Naruto responded. I also still need fit a personality matrix into him as well. Right now it's just a basic default one. Kushina pouted before hugging Naruto, proud that her son had been able to create something many his age wouldn't even be able to dream of doing. We're proud of you, Naruto, Kushina said, smiling at her son before her face turned serious. But you need to make sure you get some rest and not sneak out of bed to work on this, understand? Kushina said sternly. Naruto pouted before replying. I understand, Mom, Naruto said, pouting now that his parents knew he had been staying up late to work on Kurama. They will keep a closer eye on and won't allow him to stay up as late. Minato moved from his seat and kneeled next to Naruto. Come on, Naruto, eat your breakfast and then we can continue your training in the VR room, Minato said, smiling to his son. Naruto's eyes lit up before hugging his dad, shouting thank you at him. Minato laughed before telling Naruto to eat his breakfast. Now come on, eat your breakfast, you're gonna need your energy for the training, Minato said before going off to get the VR room ready for their training. Minato knew how dangerous the world could be. Having worked as Solo just like his own father, he knew it was a dog-eat-dog world, and he wanted to make sure that Naruto was prepared to face it. He knew he wouldn't always be there to protect him, and if Saburo found out about Naruto, he had no doubt he would send his attack dogs after him. Minato arrived at the training room. It was a large black room with various pieces of tech scattered around the room designed to project the virtual space where he and Naruto could train. A while later Naruto arrived and saw that his dad had set up the VR room. They were in a large open green field surrounded by trees and a lake. Naruto had changed into some loose-fitting training gear and walked over to his dad. "I'm ready, Dad, what are we gonna learn today?" Naruto asked, bouncing up and down with excitement. Minato smiled at his son's excitement before answering him. "We are gonna start with some hand-to-hand before practicing your sword play," Minato answered before they started to begin their training. A few hours later, Naruto and Minato had just finished up their training. Minato was proud and shocked at his son's advancement in his training. He always knew Naruto was a quick learner, but he had soaked in all his training like a sponge and had advanced leaps and bounds in his training. Minato knew if Naruto continued with his training at this rate, there would be very few things that he wouldn't be able to handle. Minato frowned once he realized that once Naruto grew up, he would of course circling looking to recruit someone as talented as him. He hoped he would be there to protect him when that happened, but knew that nothing was a guaranteed, and it would be better if he and Kushina trained Naruto to survive out in the harsh world. He had trained Naruto with his martial training and had left Kushina to handle Naruto's education and to help him with his talent for net running. Even as a child, Naruto had a strong understanding of net running and technology. Able to do things that kids his age would never even be able to fathom. They made their way back to the main lounge of their apartment where Kushina was waiting for them. Naruto could see that his mother was prepared to go somewhere as she dressed to go outside. "Where are you going, Mom?" Naruto asked. Kushina sighed at her son's scattered brain sometimes and his poor memory at remembering where they were supposed to be going today. "Don't you remember we are supposed to go to Seoul today?" Kushina stated, crossing her arms. Naruto's eyes widened, having remembered that they were supposed to go to Seoul. His mother had business there and he had also wanted to go to buy some technology he needed in order to improve Kurama. "Now go on and shower and get dressed so we can go," Kushina said. Naruto listened and went to get ready. One day later. Seoul, United Korea. The United Republic of Korea was the country created from the result of Second Korean War in 2005 with the victory of South Korea. Since then the nation had gone through various difficult times, having been the site one of the deadliest conflicts during the Fourth Corporate War that took place between 2021 to 2023, with the city of Busan having been devastated by a biological attack that wiped out most of the city's inhabitants and left those that had survived seriously scared. With many developing mutations and the area around the city to be quarantined till this day. The survivors that had made it out of the city soon joined the rest of the mutant community, those who had developed mutations either from bioweapons used by Core or through biological experimentation. The world had taken to calling this group mutes, a derogatory phrase used to refer to mutants. Naruto followed behind his parents as they made their way through the streets of one of Seoul's more shadier districts to get to the business district where Kushina had some unfinished business left over from Arasaka that she needed to resolve. As they walked, Naruto was eating some dumplings, having been hungry, and didn't notice the small shadowy figure that was following him. As he continued to walk and eat, Naruto looked up at the impressive buildings of Seoul, reminding him of Night City. As he went to grab another dumpling to eat, he saw that his hand was empty before he heard some footsteps running behind him. Naruto turned around and saw what looked to be a girl around his age running away from him with what seemed to be his dumplings. "Hey, get back here!" Naruto shouted, chasing after the girl. Kushina and Minato turned around, having heard Naruto's voice when they saw him chasing after a girl around his age. Kushina and Minato quickly chased after Naruto and the girl, knowing that it would be dangerous for him by himself. Naruto continued chasing after the girl. He could see from behind she had black-blue hair and from what he could make out 2 animal ears on top of her head. Naruto followed her through the large crowd before she made a turn into an alleyway. Naruto followed her into the alleyway before the girl came to a dead end in the alleyway. Damn it, Naruto heard the girl exclaim in Korean as his translator chip did its job and translated what the girl said. Naruto caught up with the girl and was able to get a good look at her. She had black-blue hair as he had seen when he was chasing her, but now, he could make out the ears on the top of her head were fox ears. She also had 3 whisker marks on her face similar to that of a fox. "Hey, what's the big deal, stealing my dumplings?" Naruto shouted. The girl had a scowl on her face before she replied back to Naruto in Korean. "What the hell are you saying? I don't understand what you're saying. Not all of us are rich enough to have a translation implant, you know," the girl shouted back at Naruto. Naruto facepalmed when his implant translated what the girl said to him. Of course the girl didn't have a translation implant. Naruto sighed before pulling out Kurama's hollow projector and activated it. "How can I help you, Naruto?" Kurama asked. "Kurama, can you translate what I say back to me in Korean?" Naruto replied to Kurama. Kurama nodded before Naruto turned to the girl who during his conversation with Kurama had been attempting to climb the wall before she fell and landed on the floor again. Naruto walked over and asked her again. "What's the big deal, stealing my dumplings?" Naruto asked Kurama, translating back to Naruto what he said in Korean. The girl got up to her feet and crossed her arms before replying to Naruto. "Humph, it's not my fault, I can't afford to buy food," the girl replied, puffing her cheeks out angrily at Naruto. "Rich snobs like you have whatever they want, people like me have to struggle to get by," the girl shouted at Naruto. Naruto looked down knowing it was true. He knew he had been fortunate to be born into the position he was, but that didn't mean she could judge him without knowing him. Still, he felt bad for her and wanted to at least help her. "If you need food or help, I can ask my parents, they're nice people and should be able to help you," Naruto said with Kurama translating what he said. The girl's eyes widened before narrowing as no rich person would offer something like that without a catch. "What's the catch? You rich people don't offer anything for free," the girl replied. "There's no catch, my mom opened an orphanage back in NC that takes care of orphans. I'm sure she would be able to help you," Naruto said. Before the girl could reply, they heard some footsteps behind them. Naruto turned around to see 3 scavengers approaching them. Scavengers, or scavs as they were known, are a gang that are responsible for kidnapping and harvesting cyberware from people. Although they weren't as organized and widespread as other gangs, they were still dangerous. "Look what we have here, boys," a rich boy and a mute brat hanging out, one of the men sneered with the 3 slowly approaching them. Naruto moved in front of the girl and blocked them from seeing her. "The rich brat should have some good cyberware and we can always sell the mute brat," another one of the men said. "Back off, you ugly pieces of shit, I ain't gonna let you touch us," Naruto said. The men sneered at him before starting to approach them again. Naruto irises gained a green glow with computer code appearing in his eyes. Naruto activated his cyber deck and used the demons his mother had provided him to use when he had to protect himself. As soon as Naruto activated the hacking demon, one of the scav's body started to spark. His cyberware started to spark before he started screaming before another spark went off in the back of his head, knocking him out. "Fuck, the kid's a netrunner, rush him before he can do it again," the scav in front of the other 2 shouted. Bang! Before they could move, a gunshot sounded from behind with the bullet piercing the scav behind the one closest to Naruto in the head and killing him instantly. The one who had spoken before turned around to see a man that looked to be the blonde kid's father with a pistol pointed straight at him. "Leave now or you will end up like your friend there," Minato said in perfect Korean, glaring at the man and pointing his pistol straight at the scav. The scav growled before attempting to draw his pistol at his hip. Bang! Bang! Another 2 gunshots rang out with 2 bullets piercing the scav before he could even draw his pistol and killing him. The scav's dead body collapsed to the floor next to his fellow gang members. As soon as Naruto saw Minato, he rushed towards him and hugged him. "Dad, you're here," Naruto shouted happily while hugging Minato. Minato smiled and hugged Naruto back, patting Naruto on the head. "Of course, I am, but you shouldn't run off like that, Naruto," Minato said. "Still, I saw how you took one of them out with the demon Kushina gave you, your skills are improving." Naruto smiled, beaming at the praise his father gave him. Before he could celebrate too long though, he saw his mom running towards them and she did not look happy. Kushina caught up to them before she hugged Naruto, glad to see that he was safe. Naruto hugged her back. As soon as the hug ended, Kushina raised her fist, bopped Naruto on the head. Naruto exclaimed a shout of pain before he heard Kushina shout at him. "What's the big deal with you running off like that? Is this how I raised you to act, running off without telling your mom?" Kushina shouted at Naruto. Naruto looked down sadly. Kushina kneeled next to Naruto and rubbed his head before asking him. "What were you running for anyway?" Kushina asked. Naruto looked back up at his mother before turning around to see the girl that had stolen his food trying to sneak past them. "She stole my food and I chased after her, but she says she doesn't have anyone and is poor, and then those guys showed up," Naruto said, pointing at the girl. Kushina and Minato looked to where Naruto had pointed and could see what the girl said about being poor to be true. Most of her clothes looked dirty and looked patched together. She also looked like she hadn't eaten much food in her life and looked weak and thin from the lack of nutrients. Kushina walked over to where the girl was with Naruto following behind her. She kneeled next to the girl who backed away a bit from her. Kushina smiled at the girl. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. What's your name, sweetie?" "Mine is Kushina." Kushina asked the girl. The girl hesitated before answering. "Ari, my name is Ari." The now named Ari replied, looking at the women. Kushina smiled at the girl before replying to her. "That's a beautiful name you have, Ari. Do you live with anyone?" Kushina asked. Ari looked down sadly, looking like she was ready to burst into tears before looking up at Kushina. "I don't know, the only thing I was told was that I was left at the orphanage, but they kicked me out when I was 8 because of my mutation," Ari said with tears starting to burst from her face. Kushina quickly enveloped the girl into a hug, rubbing her back and whispering assurances into her ear. Ari hugged the women, having never received any sort of affection. After a few minutes they pulled back from the hug, with Ari having now calmed down. Naruto walked over to them and spoke. "Don't worry, Ari, Mom can help you. You can't you, Mom?" Naruto asked, putting his hand on Ari's shoulder as reassurance before looking at Kushina. Kushina smiled before a teasing smirk appeared on her face. "Oh. Does my Naruto already have a crush already? Sobs, he is already growing. Pretty soon he is gonna forget about me and run away with Ari-chan." Minato, Kushina said teasingly, crying fake tears. Naruto blushed, his face turning red at the suggestion. "What? That's not what I was doing. I was just trying to be nice," Naruto shouted before turning away from Kushina and pouting. Minato smiled at his wife and son's antics. "Now Kushina, come on, don't tease Naruto. After all, we're not gonna have grandkids if we keep teasing him," Minato said, smirking at the look his son was giving for the betrayal. "Dad," Naruto shouted. Ari looked confused at the antics of the family before giggling at the reactions of Naruto. The family looked over to Ari, hearing her laugh. Kushina turned to Ari and laughed with the girl. "So do you want to come with us, Ari? We can take you away from here. You can join our family," Kushina said. She didn't want to leave Ari in another orphanage even if it was her own, as she didn't want the girl to be mistreated again, plus it would be good for Naruto to have someone his age around him. Ari thought hard on the decision. They had saved her from the scabs, and nobody had offered her anything like this before. Thank you, I accept." "Thank you, Miss Kushina," Ari said, launching herself into Kushina and hugging her and repeating thank yous to her. Kushina smiled and hugged her back before turning to Naruto. "Seems like you got a new sister now, Naruto. I guess you won't be able to marry Ari-chan like you wanted unless you want to marry your sister," Kushina said teasingly to Naruto and smirking at his reaction when he started to sputter and turn red. Ari let go of the hug before rushing over to Naruto, glomping him in a hug, who started to blush even more from the close contact and his mother's teasing words still fresh in his mind. Ari eventually let go of Naruto and Kushina, then got the attention of the two children. "Now come on, we should get you some proper clothes and food," Kushina said. Ari beamed at her new parents and enthusiastically nodded her head. The now family four then made their way to the shopping district of Seoul. A few days later. Free State of North California. Night City. Ari gazed in awe at the skyline of Night City. Though Seoul had an impressive skyline, but compared to Night City it still paled. Granted, she had never seen it from above in an AV. She turned away from the window to look at the interior of the AV. The inside of the AV interior was covered in rich leather seats designed for ultimate luxury. Ari had never felt anything this comfortable before. The rest of the interior was sleek and stylish and had luxuries most moderately wealthy people wouldn't be able to have, leading Ari to believe her new family must have wealth that surpassed most wealthy families. They had arrived from Seoul a few hours ago and were making their way to what would be her new home. Before they had set off from Seoul, they had gotten her some new clothes, and by some Ari had never seen that many clothes in her life. They had also gotten top-of-the-line software installed along with some quality-of-life cyberware and had a translation chip implanted so she could communicate more freely. "It's great, isn't it?" Ari heard next to her, looking at the boy who had defended her against the scabs and had given her this chance at a family. "Yeah, it's amazing. I never thought this could happen to me. Thank you for everything," Ari said, smiling at Naruto, who she now could understand thanks to the translation chip. "It's nothing. People forget they often can't choose where they are born. I was lucky to be born into luxury, and if I can help that isn't as lucky, then at least I am doing something good to repay that luck," Naruto said. They eventually made it back to their apartment with the AV landing on its designated landing area. Ari got out of the AV following next to Naruto. The apartment was large, more akin to a penthouse than an apartment, with a large open space that had a garden that looked to be well tended and healthy. There was also a large swimming pool just before the entrance to the inside of the penthouse. As she entered, she saw a large open living room area with a large TV that looked to be built into the wall, taking up the entirety of the wall. There was a large kitchen that looked to contain every appliance and need one might need. It was safe to say that the Namikaze family were insanely wealthy and didn't need for anything. Eventually they led her to what looked to be a door leading to a bedroom. "This will be your room, Ari-chan. Go inside, check it out," Kushina said. Ari hesitated for a moment, still having not fully grasped this, but eventually worked up the courage to open the door. The room was larger than most apartments, with everything someone might need, with a large king-sized bed, a closet for clothes. There was a large TV as well as a computer. Ari gasped before turning to Kushina and hugging her. "Thank you," Ari said, hugging the woman tightly. Kushina smiled and returned her hug and rubbed the back of her head. "It's nothing, sweetie, you a part of this family now," Kushina said. "Now go on, you must be tired. You should rest on your new comfy bed," Kushina said, smiling to the girl. Ari smiled back before rushing to her bed and jumping on the bed, giggling. She finally had a family. A morning alarm rang through the room as a figure started to awake from the sound. The covers lifted to reveal Ari. Her hair had grown well past her shoulder all the way down her back. Her ears had also gotten much larger than before and were now more pronounced than before. Getting out of bed, she made her way to her own personal bathroom that was attached to her own room. She looked up at the full-body mirror and gazed at herself. Her body was no longer the weak, skinny thing it was when her adopted parents had found her, having now access to the best food and luxuries that life could offer. Her body had filled out nicely, now possessing healthy muscles. Her face also no longer possesses the baby fat it did when she was young, and she now possesses sharp, beautiful features, having grown into a beauty. Her breasts had now also grown into a large C cup and were still growing. Further down, her hips had gained an hourglass figure, and she possessed thick thighs and a heart-shaped ass. She took off her sleepwear and stepped into the shower and prepared to shower. As the warm water from the shower hit her, Ari hummed a soft tune to herself while thinking back on how much her life had changed after she had been adopted. She now had access to every luxury in the world and didn't want for anything. She knew that there were many who did not have the chance she was given and was grateful for this chance, but the most important thing to her wasn't the luxuries or riches, but that she finally wasn't alone and has a family that loves her. After having showered and dressed, Ari made her way downstairs towards the kitchen, where she heard Kushina humming a tune similar to the one she had been humming in the shower. Kushina noticed her adopted daughter had woken up and gotten ready. Ari walked over to Kushina, enveloped in her in a hug, with Kushina hugging her back and giggling at her daughter's overly affectionate actions. Kushina could understand, though, as Ari did not have anyone prior to them adopting her. "You're awake? Good. I am getting breakfast ready. Why don't you get Naruto? He should be in the training room," Kushina said. Ari pouted at Kushina. It seems her brother had still not lost his habit of constant training. Sighing to herself, Ari made her way to the training room to get her brother to have breakfast. Seeing her daughter walk away, Kushina sighed to herself and looked down in worry. Michiko had informed that her family had started to get suspicious of her. Despite her family having disowned her, she knew that if they found out about Naruto they would try and hunt them down. Ari eventually made her way to the training room and entered the observation room. Inside she could see her adoptive father Minato observing Naruto as he trained. Minato looked over to see Ari walk into the training room. He is back to training like crazy again. We were supposed to be hanging out today, Ari said, pouting at her father. Minato smiled at his daughter. Don't worry, he is gonna be out shortly and then you will be able to hang out, Minato said before turning back to observe his son's training. Naruto was currently fighting within the artificial training ground that had been generated by the holographic projection technology. The training ground was a vast open field surrounded by trees on the outside and had a large lake on the south side of the training. Naruto had grown from a small 10-year-old kid and had grown into a teen of 16 years with a height of 5 feet 8 inches and had developed a muscular body from all the training that he had been put through. He was wearing standard training gear used by most militaries that included a Kevlar vest, protective clothes, and some appropriate training shoes. In his right hand he wielded a high-quality thermal katana that could cut through most materials and armor. Strapped to his hip was a high-powered revolver able to contain 13 high-caliber rounds, developed by Malorian Arms, the same company that had designed weapons for legendary figures such as Morgan Blackhand and Johnny Silverhand, to name a few. Minato and Kushina had commissioned this model for Naruto as a means to protect himself should he need to. Dubbed the Storm, this was a semi-automatic revolver that fires high-caliber rounds that were capable of piercing the toughest of armors. It could function as both a power weapon able to ricochet its rounds around walls, ceiling, and floors, and also as a tech weapon that could pierce through any surface to hit its target. Currently surrounded by enemies on all sides, Naruto prepared to finish off his opponents and complete his training for today. Getting into a sword stance, his HUD lit up with information and his eyes gained a green glow with computer code. Instantly the first 3 enemies exploded in front of him in a shower of sparks. Realizing that he had struck, the rest of the enemies started to prepare fire. Kurama, activate Sandavistan, Naruto commanded with his thoughts as Kurama, now having been developed into a fully functioning AI, activated Naruto's Sandavistan, a special cyberware that slowed a user perception of time by boosting their adrenaline levels and allowing them to able to move at vast speeds. Naruto's perception of time slowed to a crawl as he dodged the bullets that whizzed past his head. Using the advanced speed granted to him by the cyberware, Naruto advanced towards the closest enemy to his right, slicing through the first enemy with a downward slash, causing the enemy to be cut in two. He then sliced his way through the horde of enemies on the right hand with expert swordsmanship. His eyes gained the same familiar green glow, signaling him about to use his net-running abilities, and another trio of enemies exploded in a shower of electrical sparks. With the entire right side of the enemies cleared, Naruto turned his attention to the enemies in the center and left side of him. Kurama be Pisces, Naruto commanded through his neural link with Kurama, performing a quick scan of the remaining enemies within the training ground. Kurama responded to Naruto. 10 enemies remaining, altogether. Naruto grinned and using his neural link to Kurama reactivated his Sandavistan cyberware. Blazing towards the enemies at blinding speed, he drew his revolver and opened fire on the enemies closest to him. The bullets from the revolver shot through the barrel and whizzed through the air before impacting 2 of the enemies straight in the head, killing them. Dozens of bullets whizzed past him as he dodged and weaved his way through the bullets. A bullet came straight for him. Naruto turned his head as the bullet headed towards him. The bullet grazed his cheek, but before any damage could be done his skin started transforming, gaining a hard black metallic look. The bullet bounced off the hard substance on his skin, which started to turn back to normal. This was a new unique cyberware that Naruto had gotten the idea for and had helped in developing using his parents' contacts. It was a unique nanotechnology that worked by producing a skin layer over the wearer's body that hardened in order to protect the user. It provided protection against most weaponry but did have its weaknesses, such as tech weapons which are able to pierce through the skin. Naruto rushed towards the enemies next to him, cleaving through the soldier next to him, slashing with his katana. Using his momentum he followed through with his cut before twisting on his feet and unleashed 2 quick slashes in quick succession on the enemies behind the one he had just killed. The last remaining enemy in the center of the arena charged towards him wielding a katana. Naruto blocked the katana-wielding enemy's strike and parried the enemy's strike, hitting with a shoulder strike that pushed him back a few feet. The soldier charged back again, slashing him with multiple attacks, all of which the blonde was able to block. His opponent went for another slash, attempting to cut him in half, but the blonde had anticipated the move and blocked the strike before locking his opponent's blade with his own. Using his superior swordsmanship, he bound his opponent's blade before disarming him with a quick move. As the sword flew through the air, he performed a quick slash towards his enemy's neck while spinning on his feet, causing the opponent's neck to separate from his head. The sword landed with a soft clank on the green grass of the simulated arena, but by then the blonde had moved on to the remaining enemies. Naruto dodged the heavy fire from the remaining enemies and activated his net-running abilities. His eyes gained the familiar green hue before the enemies exploded in a shower of explosions. But before he could celebrate, he felt himself get sucker punched, causing him to slide back a few feet. Inside the observation room, both Ari and Minato observed Naruto's training exercise. To Ari it seemed like Naruto was doing great, but to a trained and accomplished mercenary like Minato, he could see several holes in Naruto's style, and while they may not be big mistakes against normal soldiers and gangster, against an experienced professional it would get him killed. "He's doing well, isn't he, Dad?" Ari asked. "He is. Against normal soldiers, but against an experienced professional his fighting style is still too rough and needs refinement," Minato replied. Ari knew how dangerous the world was, having survived on the streets, but the training that Naruto was being put through was well beyond what he would need to survive every day in the streets, and it seemed unlikely to her that Naruto would ever need to fight a professional experienced merc. She had asked her parents why he was being trained this heavily before, but had never received a satisfactory answer. Minato pressed a few buttons on the controls to the training room. The simulation continued inside the training while a door opened next to them that led to the training room. Minato moved towards the door. "What are you going to do?" Ari asked. "This simulation is too easy for him now. He needs to face someone that will make it difficult for him," Minato said before stepping into the simulation. Arriving inside the simulation, Minato camouflaged himself using the inbuilt camo tech that had been built into his armor. Minato watched as Naruto defeated the last of the enemies. Minato launched himself towards Naruto just as he turned around, hitting him with a straight punch that caused him to stumble back a few feet. Naruto stumbled back a few feet and turned to where the attack had come from. He saw nothing before a clear silhouette appeared in front of him. The invisibility cloak started to disappear, revealing Minato, who stood there in his full mercenary armor. Naruto got to his feet and got himself into his fighting stance. Both of them started to size each other up, waiting for the other to make the first move. "I should have known you would sucker punch me like that," Naruto said, sounding a bit upset at having been caught off guard. Minato smiled at his son before they started to approach each other in their stances. "In a life or death situation you never know when someone will strike, you have to be prepared for anything," Minato said seriously to his son. Naruto grunted before charging straight forward towards Minato, beeping his right fist back before unleashing a punch straight for Minato's head. Minato ducked and weaved underneath the fist coming towards him before launching his own fist, aiming to hit Naruto right in the solar plexus, but Naruto saw through his attack and pivoted out of the way. Using the momentum from his movement, he launched a left hook. Minato leaned back with the punch only grazing him but leaving most of his face unharmed. Seizing the opportunity, he grabbed Naruto's outstretched left arm, grappling it, and using Naruto's own weight against him performed an arm drag, causing Naruto to land on his back. Minato went for a punch trying to hit Naruto as he lay on his back, but Naruto rolled to the side before getting to his feet. Naruto charged again, this time taking a bit more caution, and launched a barrage of punches and kicks towards his father. Minato ducked and weaved between the barrage of punches and kicks, though even someone as experienced as him was finding some difficulty underneath the assault of kicks and punches. Having had enough of the barrage, Minato responded by blocking the incoming hits before responding with his own series of punches and kicks. The dance of martial combat continued, with them hitting each other with powerful hits and strikes. Naruto's head reeled back as Minato's fist impacted his chin. Naruto took a step back and regained his stance. Minato went for another series of strikes that Naruto either parried or dodged. He withstood the barrage of hits for a few more minutes, waiting for his chance to strike. He saw the opportunity when Minato overextended slightly on one of his punches, his eyes gaining the familiar green glow of his net-running abilities. Now Kurama, Naruto told his AI partner through their neural link. Minato tried to pull his arm back but could not feel his arm respond to him. He tried to move the rest of his body but it would not respond to him. It seemed his son had hit him with a paralysis demon that restricted his movement. Naruto beeped his fist back and unleashed a barrage of strikes and hits. Minato took the barrage of hits and strikes, and despite his experience and time as a mercenary blunting the pain, he knew he would not be able to withstand the barrage of hits further. The effects of the paralysis started to wear off to Minato's benefit, as did not know how long he would be able to survive his son's barrage. He saw the strike heading towards and started to dodge and weave through the attacks. Eventually the feeling in his hands and legs started to return as well, and he prepared to strike back. Naruto knew he had to finish this quickly as his father started to regain control of his body again. He beeped his fist back and attempted to finish this, but Minato moved to the side, dodging the incoming strike. Minato, using the opportunity of his son having overextended himself with that strike, executed a leg sweep that caused Naruto to buckle over and fall onto the ground. Minato quickly used the opportunity and tried to pin Naruto to the ground, but faced some difficulties as his son attempted to block his attempts to pin him to the ground. The two executed a quick movement of wrestling techniques, with Minato trying to pin Naruto while he did his best to guard the attempts. Naruto, not wanting to lose so easily, used his free hand and grabbed the dagger attached to Minato's belt and struck, attempting to go for a deadly strike to the neck. Minato quickly moved out of the way of the strike, which gave Naruto the opportunity he needed to get up off the floor. Minato grabbed another identical dagger from his belt and the father-son duo restarted their fight. "You did well," Minato said as both father and son exited the training room. "But you're still making a lot of rookie mistakes, overextended on your attacks, relying too much on your net running to bail you out and depend too much on your cybernetics," Minato explained to his son. "But you also overextended when you attacked, remember?" Naruto replied, confused. "That's because I did that on purpose in order to show you the type of mistakes that can be exploited. It's good that you picked up on it and used it, but you also need to learn to remove your own mistakes as well," Minato stated. "You also did well using your gun during our fight. It's good to use whatever tools you have at your disposal and your surroundings." Naruto looked thoughtfully on what his father was telling him. He found it weird that he was being trained this much and this thoroughly. It's not like he was going to a mercenary like his father. He simply wanted to live a normal, peaceful life with his family and keep working on developing Kurama. "Why am I being trained so much, Dad? I enjoy it, but why? It's not like I am gonna be a mercenary like you," Naruto said. Minato put his hand on his son's shoulder and made Naruto face him. Naruto saw his dad's face turn serious. He had only seen him have this face when he was talking about something serious. "The world is a dangerous place, Naruto, and there are things out there that you need to be prepared to face," Minato stated seriously to his son. Naruto grumbled before looking down, disappointed that he again hadn't been able to get a real answer again. Before he could think any further on it, he felt himself encircled in a bone-crushing hug. "Naruto!" Ari yelled, enveloping her adopted brother in a bone-crushing hug and pressing her face into his chest. Naruto winced as he felt the pain from some of his lingering wounds from his fight with Minato emerge again. "Ow, ow, Ari, my wounds still haven't healed fully," Naruto said, trying to pull back from the hug to avoid the pain. Ari let go of the hug and blushed in embarrassment. "Sorry, hahaha, I forgot, I'm just excited about going to that amusement park today. You promised we would go," Ari said. Naruto smiled back, remembering the promise he had made to her a few days ago to take her to the Night City amusement park. "Don't worry, I haven't forgotten about that," Naruto said. "Well, anyway, Mom said breakfast is ready, so better hurry up before she gets angry," Ari said, and started to walk away and head back towards the kitchen. Naruto's face turned pale at the thought, remembering how angry his mother could get sometimes when he didn't listen to her straight away. He quickly hurried and followed behind Ari, catching up to her. Naruto arrived in the kitchen to see that his mother had prepared breakfast. His eyes lit up in joy when he smelled the broth and meat and knew that his mother had prepared ramen. He started to excitedly run over to the kitchen and hugged his mother from behind. Kushina shouted out in surprise as she did not expect someone to surprise her like that. Kushina turned around and bonked Naruto on the head and shouted out in anger. "Don't show up behind me like that, Naruto!" Kushina shouted. "And here I am just trying to be a loving son." Naruto rubbed his head in pain and mumbled quietly. Kushina narrowed her eyes at Naruto, causing him to quickly turn and sit down. Ari giggled at the interaction between the mother and son before following behind Naruto and sat next to him. Minato walked over to Kushina as Naruto and Ari were talking to each other. With the children now distracted, Minato could see that Kushina now had a worried expression on her face. The two walked out of the kitchen to avoid Naruto and Ari from hearing their conversation. "I'm worried, Minato. Michiko has just told me that father may be close to finding out about Naruto, if he discovers Naruto." Kushina trailed off worriedly. Minato hugged his wife reassurance and started to ponder on what they could do in order to protect Naruto. While Saburo had allowed them to leave with their lives, he did not know about Naruto at the time and would not stand to allow Naruto to remain alive as a threat to his legacy. If Naruto remained alive, he could eventually, if he wanted, to reclaim what Kushina had left behind, and Minato knew it would be a cold day in hell if Saburo would ever allow someone with foreign blood to inherit the throne to the Arasaka corporate empire. He knew that if Saburo learned about Naruto, he would try to use whatever resource they had in order to find him, and now with them taking in Ari, it left another innocent in the potential crossfire if Arasaka decided to come after them. "We have to do something, Minato," Kushina said, snapping him out of his thoughts. Minato removed himself from his wife and paced back and forth for a few moments to decide what to do. "I have an idea, but it would be a bit of a risk," Minato said. Kushina gazed at her husband and her expression told him she was waiting on him to continue with his point. "We can have Naruto and Ari moved somewhere else in order for them to be more safe and away from Arasaka's eyes, at least until they have grown up," Minato said. "But how are we going to explain that to them?" Kushina asked. Minato smiled at his wife before continuing with his explanation. "We can have them enrolled into school as a cover, plus it would allow them to get a certified education and give them the opportunity to interact with people their own age," Minato said. "I originally thought moving to Night City would be better, considering Arasaka hasn't had any considerable presence here since the Fourth Corporate War," Kushina said, pondering on where else they could possibly move Naruto and Ari in order to protect them. "I have some contacts in Europe who have connections with top schools over there that may be able to help us with this," Minato said. Kushina sighed nervously and hugged her husband in order to calm herself down. It would be best if they used Minato's connection as the contacts and links she had. Even after leaving Arasaka would leave too much of a risk of the corp eventually finding her kids. The two separated and nodded to each other, agreeing that this would be the best solution in order to protect their kids. They made their way back to the kids as they did not want them suspecting anything. They arrived to see Naruto and Ari still engaged in conversation with each other on what they would do at the amusement park they had planned to go to today. The two teens noticed them returning but did not say anything about where their parents could have gone off to. "I've made your favorite ramen today," Kushina said as she sat down with Minato sitting next to her. "Thanks, Mom, I was hoping to have some ramen today after the training I went through today," Naruto said. You're spoiling him too much, Mom, he just had ramen a few days ago," Ari said playfully. "You don't see me complaining whenever you want barbecue," Naruto replied back. "Yeah, well, at least I don't have it every day, I can control myself," Ari said smugly. Naruto simply grumbled and stuck his tongue out mockingly at Ari before going back to eat his ramen. Pretty soon the family had concluded their breakfast and headed to the amusement park that had recently opened in Night City. Naruto and Ari walked through the park, having broken off from their parents in order to have more fun and not be dragged around by the adults. Naruto was pretty sure he saw relieved expressions on his parents when they had broken off from them. He was feeling a little cooped up in the house and wanted to explore the world a bit more. He was also feeling quite suspicious as to why his parents were so adamant on him going through so much combat and self-defense training. No rational parent would teach their parents how to use various types of weapons and have them trained to use an entire arsenal of guns. He knew his parents weren't normal, though clearly evidenced by the fact that his father was a highly trained mercenary and his mother seemed to have all sorts of connections within the corporate world. He had tried to do as much research into his parents' past as possible, as he was sure they were hiding things from, but he hadn't been able to find much. It's almost as if someone or something had erased all possible information on his parents' past. His thoughts were broken when he heard Ari gasp next to him. She had an odd expression on her as she looked around the amusement park. He was glad to have come across on that fateful day and was happy that his parents had agreed to adopt her. The past 6 years he had spent with her had been some of the most fun that he had. The less innocent side of his brain had also noticed that she had grown into a beautiful girl, having developed a crush on her despite their new relationship after his parents had adopted her. Ari noticed Naruto's stare and blushed when she noticed him staring intently at her. Naruto quickly turned his head in embarrassment, having been caught staring. Ari coughed in order to get Naruto's attention again. "So where do you want to go first?" Ari said. "It's your choice, after all you wanted to come here," Naruto said. Ari squealed in excitement and grabbed Naruto's hand, dragging the blonde across the various rides. "Let's go to the roller coaster first," Ari said. "Shouldn't we save that for last?" Naruto replied. "I thought you said I could pick," Ari said in an accusing tone. Alright, it was just a suggestion," Naruto said before being dragged by the fox-eared girl towards the large roller coaster located in the middle of the park. A few hours later, the two had spent going through all the possible rides that they could go to in the amusement park and now found themselves seated at the top of one of the tallest buildings within the amusement park that housed a restaurant at the top. The pair were gazing over the visible skyline of Night City. "Do you believe this place really is the City of Dreams?" Ari asked. "Well, the view isn't too bad, but I really don't know. Mom and Dad must have moved here for a reason, but I am starting to question if that was really cause this place is the City of Dreams or if it was cause of something else," Naruto said, wondering why his parents had moved here. Despite the city's slogan and all the marketing, he was smart enough to know it wasn't the best place to live. "What do you mean? You think they could have had a reason for moving here that they haven't told us about?" Ari asked. "Yeah, I think so. It's weird that they have been training me so much. Even before you joined us they were training me," Naruto stated. "Whatever it is, I'm sure that they have a good reason and I'm sure they will tell us eventually," Ari said. "Naruto, I want to thank you," Ari said, her voice going quiet as she looked down. Naruto gazed over to his friend and adopted sister, seeing her holding back some tears but with a grateful expression on her face. "What for? Come on, I know it's a great view, but you don't have to cry now," Naruto said jokingly, trying to lighten the mood with Ari. Ari giggled at the blonde's attempt to try and cheer her up, and it seemed to have worked. "You know I'm not talking about Naruto. I want to thank you for convincing your parents to take me in that day and for protecting me from those scavs. You gave me something I can never repay you for," Ari said with fresh tears streaking down her cheek. She lunged at the blonde and hugged him tightly, with tears now flowing from her cheeks. Naruto hugged her back tightly, her perfume hitting his senses and her body pressing against him tightly. Naruto blushed before forcing it down and started to comfort Ari, whispering sweet nothings to her. "You don't have to be thankful for anything, Ari. Before you I was alone and didn't have anybody my age. You gave me something I wanted as well, a friend," Naruto said. "Oh. I'm only a friend, am I? I thought this was a date," Ari said teasingly, with the two having now separated. Naruto sputtered in embarrassment and shouted back. "Date? I always knew you were a perverted fox girl wanting to date your own brother. Wait till Mom hears about this," Naruto stated, pointing accusingly at Ari. "Adopted brother, there's no blood relation," Ari said, giggling and winking at Naruto, causing him to blush further. "Sai, stopping messing around with me like that," Naruto said, having calmed down, having noticed she was only joking with him, though a part of him was disappointed it was only a joke, but he was not the only one, as he missed the brief look of disappointment on Ari's face with her fox ears briefly drooping in disappointment. The two eventually returned to gazing back to the view of Night City and took in the view. Unbeknownst to them, their lives were about to change. End chapter. So this part ends here. If you want to see next part of this series, like the video now, and share the story with your friends. Bye bye.